What's happening, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show that we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I am your tour guide around the SWAC. See what else coming at you. And we're going to continue our preseason team previews. Today, we're going to talk about the Florida A&M Rattlers and what I expect from them this season and what they did last season and, all things in between. So, as usual, you can see the socials on the screen down below. You can check those out. Instagram is Swag Talk, Facebook is Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. If you haven't done so already, I want you to please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to any content that I upload. And like the video, share them, and feel free to comment. Let me know what you think about anything that any topics that come up on the show or whatever. Just hit the comments, and I'll be glad to chop it up with you there. Also, like I said, man, we got Swag Talk shirts coming in. We got a few gonna be in this week. So if you want to get one, let me know. Here's a sample of the shirt. I guess it don't want to cooperate. But here you go. You can check that out. There are one for 25 and two for 40. So if you like one, just hit me up on my Instagram, on my Twitter account, man. I can hook you up, if you want one. So go ahead and do that. I know you probably already copped a swag smoke shirt, but once you go ahead and cop a Swag Talk shirt for the season, man, rock that and represent. So let's talk Rattlers, man. The FAMU Rattlers last season was their first year in the SWAC, and they had a great season. Obviously the season didn't start off the way they wanted it to, losing to Jackson State 7-6 in the Orange Blossom Classic. But they rebounded. They defeated Fort Valley State 34-7. They dropped a 38-17 game to USF. They beat Alabama State 28-0. They beat South Carolina State 30-7. They had a second half comeback against Alabama A&M and won that game 35-31. They beat Valley 31-28. They beat Grambling 26-3. They beat Southern 29-17. They beat Pine Bluff 37-7, and they closed out their regular season by beating Bethune Cookman 46-21 in a game where they just had a second half onslaught and really ran the Wildcats out of the stadium to break their losing streak and earn an at-large bid into the FCS playoffs, being the first SWAC team to go to the playoffs since like 1997, I believe. So really, 98, 97, really, good season for them. It didn't end the way they wanted to, losing to Southeastern Louisiana 38-14. But this team came in and, they put the SWAC on notice. They had a tremendous defense, a great running game, a great receiving core, terrific special teams, kicking and return game. This team was a complete team on all aspects. Like I said, that first game, like I said, didn't go the way they wanted to. They had the opportunities, but that was their first game since 2019. So they weren't, that team there was not the team that were in the season, but they showed flashes in that game, but they just could not get it going. So this team did what a lot of people feel like they exceeded expectations. And they were a great team, finishing the season 9-3 and 71 in conference, winning 7 straight games in conference to close out the season. So they, you were unable to do anything against them as an offense, and defensively, your team, had a tough task stopping this team. Looking at some of the statistics for the past season, they were third in the league in scoring offense at 27.8 points per game. They scored 41 touchdowns, 17 field goals, 34 extra points, and 1 safety. Defensively, they were second in the league in scoring at 17 points per game, allowing 27 touchdowns, 5 field goals, 27 extra points on the season. Total offense, they were fourth in the league at 380. They were fourth in the league at 380.9 yards per game, averaging 5.5 yards per play, which would put them at 6th in the league in terms of yards per play. Defensively, they were second in the league in total defense, 277.9 yards per game, 4.5 yards per play, which was the second least amount in terms of yards per play as a defense in the league. Rushing offense, they were fourth at 159 yards per game, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, which would be third in the league. They scored 14 touchdowns on the ground. They were first in the league in rushing defense at 94.3 yards per game. They only allowed 3 yards per carry, which was second in the league. They allowed 13 touchdowns on the season. Passing offense, they were sixth in the league at 221 yards per game, 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completing 57% of their passes. Defensively, they were third in the league in passing defense at 183.6 yards per game, allowing opponents to complete 53% of their passes, 12 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. So really good numbers there on defense. Kickoff returns, they were seventh in the league, averaging 18.8 yards per return. Punt returns, they led the league at 14.9 yards per return with 1 touchdown. So they were really solid in the return game. Kickoffs, they led the league with a net average of 41.7 yards per kick, 25 touchbacks, and they averaged 60.6 yards per kick on kickoffs. They did a really great job with teams, with kicking. The special teams, like I said, was really good. Field goals, they were sixth in the league at 17 to 24 for 70%. Extra points, they were sixth in the league, 34 for 36 for 94%. Punting, they led the league with a net average of 37.5 yards per kick net and a total average of 43.1 yards per punt. They only allowed 2.6 yards per return on punt return. So they, like I keep saying, that special teams was a really big bonus for this team. They didn't allow the opponents to do much on special teams, and they took advantage of every opportunity that they had. The offense led the league in allowing sacks with 15, with the least allowed with 15. So they did a great job of protecting quarterback. They were second in the league in sacks at 42 on the season. So they got pressure on the quarterback, protected the quarterback. They did everything you want. They were third in the league in interceptions with 13. We're actually tied for first with 13 on the season for 201 yards in returns. First downs, they were second in the league, averaging 20.6 first downs per game, 247 total first downs. Defensively, they led the league, allowing 14.8 first downs per game at 178 total. Third down conversions, they were third offensively at 38.6% conversion, 66 of 171. Defensively, they were third, allowing 32% third down conversion rate, 55 of 169. Fourth downs, they were 11th, 7 of 24 for 29%. The opponents' fourth down conversions, they were third at 36.8%, 7 of 19. Penalties, they averaged 85.2 yards per game in penalties. That was last in the league, 107 total penalties, which would make them the second most penalized team in the league. 1,022 yards is the most penalty yardage in the league. Opponent penalties, 54.1 yards per game. That was eighth in the league. The opponents were penalized 74 times for 649 yards. So you can see a big discrepancy in penalties, but that did not hurt this team at all. They were able to overcome that on both sides of the ball. Red zone offense, they were third in the league at 77.8%, 35 of 45 in the red zone. They scored 23 touchdowns in the red zone, 10 rushing, 13 passing, and they were 12 of 13 on field goals. They did have 7 turnovers in the red zone, counting turnover on downs. They had 3 fumbles and 4 interceptions. Defensively, they were 20. They allowed 72% completion rate in the red zone, which was first in the league. 24 of 33. They allowed 21 touchdowns, 11 rushing, 10 passing, 3 of 6 on field goals, and they forced 4 turnovers in the red zone, 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions. And their average time of possession was 32 minutes and 1 second per game. So if you look at this team as a whole, they showed no flaws. I mean, they ran the ball well. They stopped the run. They, passed the ball pretty decently. They were great against the pass, kicking, you name it. They were good at it. So this team was exactly, where they should have finished record-wise Rushing, the leading rusher was Bishop Barnett, 156 carries, 972 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season, averaged 6.2 yards per carry. Terrell Jennings, 105 carries, 517 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Jalen McLeod, 56 carries, 257 yards, also 4.6 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Rashawn Mckay was the leading passer on the season, 211 of 364, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 57% completion rate, 2,457 yards on the season. Receiving, Xavier Smith, 64 catches, 713 yards, 11.14 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. Jamare Shareed, 55 catches, 622 yards, 11.3 yards per catch, 9 touchdowns. David Manigo, 31 catches, 365 yards, 11.7 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Chad Hunter, 29 catches, 338 yards, 11.6 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Christopher Sanders, 18 catches, 182 yards, 10.1 yards per catch. So Kamari Young, 7 catches, 140 yards, 20 yards per catch, average 4 touchdowns. Spread the ball around, a lot of weapons. They guys, they have a tremendous receiving core, including tight ends, and everybody was productive. So, it was kind of a pick your poison type of thing. Multiple guys can make plays for this team, and that continues. That's something that really helped this team out a lot. You just can't key on a guy. You couldn't key on a guy last season and expect to be successful in that way. So really, like I said, offensively, really good. I mean, the numbers were there. Defensively, Marquise Bell was the leading tackler with 95 on the season, 71 solo tackles on the season. B.J. Bowler, 52 tackles to lead, second on the team. Antoine Collier, and Derek Mayweather, 49 catches. Antoine Collier, 48. Fagan, 43. Land, 43 tackles for loss. Land, 25.5 tackles for loss. He is the reigning Buck Buchanan Award winner, second straight Buck Buchanan Award winner. SWAC won the spring 2021 Buck Buchanan Award and fall 2021 Buck Buchanan Award. So, to say the SWAC had never won that award before, they picked it up twice in 1 year, possibly can pick it up again this year. So this may be the SWAC award. Savion Williams, 11 tackles for loss. Derek Mayweather, 8.5 tackles for loss. Gentle Hunt, 8 tackles for loss. Deontay Williams, 7 tackles for loss. Bell, 6.5. Sacks, Land, 19. Williams, 6.5. Hunt, 5. Deontay Williams, 4. Stanley Mentor, 2.5. Marquise Bell, 2. Interceptions on the season. B.J. Bowler led the team with 4 interceptions. Morgan, 3. And then you had a few guys with 1 each. Special teams, punting, Romo Martinez had 40 punts for 1,734 yards, 43.3 yard average per punt, longer 64. Chris Fadul also averaged 45 yards per punt on 11 punts, and he had a longer 56. Field goals, Romo Martinez was 17 of 24 on the season, 70%. Long field goal of 51. So they were pretty solid in all aspects. 20 to 29 yards, 9 for 9, 30 to 39 yards, 2 or 3, 5 of 11 from 40 to 49 yards, and 1 for 1 from 50 plus. So you can't go wrong with a kicker that can basically, kick a good percentage, 45% or better from anywhere on the field. So you really have a really solid guy that's gonna, you can at least put him out there and see what happens. Romo Martinez, 65 kickoffs, 3,947 yards, 60-yard average, 24 touchbacks on the season. So really, really good numbers on kickoffs. Return game, Jamari Shareed, top punt returner, 18 returns, 358 yards, 19-yard average, and 1 touchdown. Kickoffs, Xavier Smith, 11 returns, 229 yards, a 20-yard average. Shareed, 9 returns, 222 yards, 24-yard average. And, like I said, this team averaged 18 yards per return on kickoffs. So that's a pretty good starting field position on kickoff. Same thing with punts. They put their offense in great position with their special teams, and they also put their defense in good position with special teams. So this, like I said, this was a complete team. Looking at the numbers from last season. So jumping over to this upcoming season, what to expect? I think you don't expect much different. This is easily one of the top two teams in the conference. I guess you can say, some people feel JSU may run away with the SWAC. Some people don't. The people who don't probably feel like FAMU has a very great chance, and they have it in their hands to control their destiny in this conference. Playing. They open up with North Carolina on August 27th. That's week 0 game, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's a big game on the road on the ACC network. If you want to check that out. I'm not a huge fan of Power 5 games, but this team, they have some questions. Last season they went straight into their biggest game of the season, right off the bat. So this is a game to kind of, get your footing, trot out guys, guys who you may not be 100% sure on starters. You can work some things out in this game. You can figure out who can play well together, who can't, answer some questions. And then, you move into that big Orange Blossom Classic on September 4th. So this is a good, I don't want to call it a preseason game because it counts and you want to go out, you want to go to Chapel Hill and play hard. You want to play to win. You want to, all of that. But this is a good, a good pre-SWAC game to open up your season and kind of figure out some questions. So instead of coming in that game, that Orange Blossom Classic cold on the season and trying to work out some kinks, you have a game and you have a week of practice to correct some issues. And people say you improved the most between your first and second game of the season. So this team can be a much better team coming into this Orange Blossom Classic than they were last season. So this is a huge game in all aspects. Win or loss, a good effort against Carolina will definitely bleed into the next week. The Orange Blossom Classic, as I said, is probably, again, the biggest game on the season. It's basically the de facto SWAC East Championship game. Last season, FAMU had some chances. JSU had their chances to blow the game open, but FAMU had some chances to kind of, take control of the game. They never really could. So maybe coming off of a game before can help you in this game. You win this game, you set the table for your season. You're in the driver's seat, coming out of the first SWAC game. You lose this game, you're going to need help, and you're going to have to continue to, play well yourself, and then, hope somebody can knock off JSU 2 times. So this is a must. I don't like to call early season games must wins because there's so much football left to be played after week 1, actually. But this is honestly, if you're looking at a SWAC championship, then this is a must win. You need to beat this team, and you need to take advantage of what the opportunity that's in front of you. September 10th, they play Albany State at home. That's a nice kind of come down game. Albany State is a tough team. They're one of the top teams in the SWAC, but this should be a solid game coming home to either continue your momentum or regain your momentum. So, I like this game. This is, kind of the time I like a Division II game early in the season, in between games, to kind of, get your footing or whatever. But this is a good game here. They host Alabama A&M after a bye week, week 3 bye week. So then they host A&M on September 24th. I expect A&M to still be kind of A&M on offense. The Bulldog defense still a question mark. So I do like the Rattlers a lot in that game. Valley at home on October 1st. Valley gave FAMU all they could handle in Itabena. Valley on the road is not necessarily Valley at home. So, Valley is looking to change that. But right now, that's going to be something that, they beat Bethune Cookman on the road this past season, but Valley on the road and Valley at home has always historically been two different things. They're working hard to change that, but Bragg is a different place for teams to play. So I like FAMU in that one as well. South Carolina State hosts FAMU on October 8th. That's a huge non-conference game. one of the biggest non-conference games in the SWAC. I like this game a lot. This is going to be a very interesting game. I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on this game because these are two teams. If things go FAMU's way and things go South Carolina State's way, these two teams could meet again in Atlanta in the Celebration Bowl. So this is a huge matchup, and I this one I think could go either way. At this point, the Rattlers go to Grambling on October 15th. Strange things happen in the hole. We say it all the time, but Grambling's gonna be, much improved from last season. How much improved we don't know, but we'll have a better idea of what Grambling is at this point in the season. FAMU should still be playing fairly well, so this could be a tougher game for them. They come back home for homecoming against UAPB. They should take care of business in that game. November 5th, they host Southern at home. Could be a big game, but Southern and Bragg is a house of horrors for the Jaguars. No matter how good a team Southern has, when they typically go into Bragg, it's hard to come out of it with wins. And, that's just one of those things. So, Southern could be playing well, but this could be a big matchup. It could potentially be a SWAC championship matchup. But Southern has a lot of trouble in Bragg. So, I think the Rattlers can probably navigate that. I'm not chalking it up, but, it is what it is. That's just a tough place for Southern to play historically. Then they close out the road slate, the true road slate on November 12th at Alabama State. Should be an interesting game. The Rattlers totally bombed Alabama State and Montgomery in Tallahassee last season, but, Alabama State could be playing better at this point, but it's still going to be a game that I give FAMU the edge in at this point, sitting here on what is July 31st, I guess, whatever, July 31st, July 30th, I don't know the date, sorry. But sitting here right now in the preseason, I give FAMU the edge at this point. And then they close out the season in the Florida Classic on November 19th against Bethune Cookman. Bethune Cookman's offense should be much improved. I think the defense still is going to have some questions, but I think FAMU, has got that monkey off their back in this game. So, they can probably kind of focus a little bit more and play football in this game and not worry about breaking a streak. So that, that can go a long way in your approach in this game. So looking at the schedule, I like the schedule a lot. Like I said, if you took that North Carolina game and made that any G5 team, or maybe even a lower P5 team, like like a Duke or somebody, or Vandy or somebody. I'm not saying that's a dub, but I would probably like that game a lot better. But Carolina is not the Carolina from last year. I'm not saying this to predict a FAMU win, but they lost Sam Howell and they lost a few other guys off their team. So this is last year's Carolina or the year before Carolina. So they're gonna have some questions. FAMU's gonna be a team that can at least come in and maybe make some plays, and who knows what happens. But I would rather that probably be a G5 game if it's not an FCS game to open the season. But to me, that's a good starting block. That JSU game is the game of the year pretty much. I think a lot of people feel that way. And then the schedule kind of, I don't want to say ramps down because I don't want to disrespect Albany State, who's a great team, probably can win their conference, but it kind of ramps down a little bit from those first two games. So you have a lot of you have three manageable games, three winnable games before that big South Carolina State game. Grambling's a tough game on the road. You come home for Pine Bluff, which should be a win. Then you have another rivalry game against Southern on the road against Alabama State. Then in Orlando for Bethune Cookman. So the schedule is manageable. It's broken up into chunks. All your tougher games are kind of outside of your first two games. All your tougher games are kind of separated by one or two games, so you can kind of focus on games. And there's less trap opportunities because you have a few games in a row before you get a big game. You're not playing a bunch of big games in a row. You have a lot of games at home. So that definitely helps. You have basically out of your let's see, they have I think 5 home games on the season, and then you have 2 other games in Florida. So you have 7. I think it's 7 of your games in the state of Florida. So that's a great thing. You know, you're not doing too much traveling. I mean, Miami to Tallahassee is a hell of a trip, but you know what I'm saying? You're not leaving the state, so you're at least playing in your home state. I like the schedule a lot. You know, it shapes up well for the Rattlers. Looking at the team itself, they return almost all of their receivers. A lot of you got Smith, Shareed, Manigo. All those guys are gonna be big. You got Terrell Jennings and McLeod at running back, plus a bunch of other guys they got out of the portal. So running backs, they have I think like 7 backs. Somebody's gonna step up, but they have very capable guys to keep that machine rolling on the ground. The receivers are awesome. Shareed's a beast of a return man. Xavier Smith can do it too. Quarterback, is there a quarterback battle, or is this kind of like, to light the fire under Rashawn Mckay? That's one thing to look at. But if Jeremy Moose is a guy who a lot of people are high on. Personally, I like Rashawn Mckay. I know a lot of people feel like, he's more of a game manager type of guy, but the guy is big and he can play. I mean, he can throw the ball. I mean, he only turned the ball over 5 interceptions on the season, I think, last season. So he takes care of the football. Now, can he take that next step and win games for you? That's gonna probably be, that's gonna be the question that Coach Simmons has to answer for his guys. Is this gonna be the guy that we can trust to put out there on the field to, and know that he can make those plays when we need him to make them. He's a redshirt senior, so last season was his first full season starting. So that helps a lot, having those games under his belt. So, I feel confident with him, but the guys that are behind him, they're all capable too. So, I don't think the Rattlers going to have a problem there. Returning a guy like Isaiah Land or your defense really helps. Your defensive line is still strong. You're losing Savion Williams and Deontay Williams, but you still have a lot of good guys on that D-line coming back. Your linebacker core is solid. Your secondary, you're losing Bell and Collier, but you still have a guy like BJ Bowlers, who is an all-conference guy. Lovey Jenkins back there at safety. So, you have a ton of talent on this team, and that's not counting Romo Martinez, who is a cannon at kicker. So this team is just as good, if not better than last season. They've been in the SWAC for a year. They know how this conference operates. They know that JSU game is there looming. This team, if they can win that JSU game, they have a great chance of winning this conference. If they lose this game, they're not out of it. Because who knows what happens in the SWAC, but you're putting yourself in a tough spot if you lose that first game. But this team is gonna be good. I mean, this team can easily win the SWAC championship. I don't see them finishing anywhere worse than second in the division, or even if you do an overall, they're one or two, number one or number 2 team in this conference. So they're gonna be playing in the postseason somewhere. That's my prediction. They're either going to the SWAC championship in the Celebration Bowl, or they're going to the playoffs. So this team will be playing in late November or December. What they do against Jackson State in week 1 is probably going to dictate where they go. Because if this team plays a home SWAC championship game in Bragg, it's going to be hard for somebody to beat them now. So this team is going to be good, man. Like I said, they can be anywhere between a 9-2, a 10-1 team. I don't see them finishing anything worse than 9-2. Maybe an upset here or there, and they may win 8 games, but I can't see them personally winning less than 8 games. And without trying to put a lot of pressure, winning 8 games is almost like, I mean, that's pretty much my limit. Now, if something, happens with any team, if you look at something catastrophic, then yes, something, injuries or something, that can be a problem. This team was pretty decent with the injury bug last season. So if they can continue to avoid that, then they'll be okay. So if you're a Rattler fan, I think you're going to have a very good season in the SWAC this season. And, I would look for y'all to strike a lot this season. So anybody else, man, y'all got to buckle up, because I think this team is going to be a big factor in the conference. So that's going to do it for our FAMU preview. Next on Wednesday is our Groundland preview. G-Men have a lot a lot of questions coming into the season, but they also have a lot of potential and a lot of change on that sideline and on the roster. So we're gonna dive into the Tigers and see what they have on the deck. Next Thursday is SWAC Smoke. DJ will be back with us, so we'll be a 2-man crew again. And then Sunday, JSU. So we have our SWAC previews rolling on along, and we'll be rapidly approaching week 0, where the SWAC has 2 games: the MEAC SWAC Challenge, Alabama State at Howard, and North Carolina and FAMU. So SWAC on TV 2 times in week 0. So make sure y'all check those out. I'm your boy C. Wells signing out. I hope y'all enjoy y'all Sunday, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.